Hey guys, welcome back to the Bond Report. This is Chris, aka the Beard of Blofeld. So today we are talking something near and dear to my heart. I do love a good villain, as you all know. And what is more important than what makes a villain confident? And when you're confident, you feel good, and when you feel good, you feel powerful. And something that does that is fashion. So I thought, who knows fashion in the Bond community? Who better than Bond Suits himself, Matt Spaiser? Matt, welcome to the channel. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
Yes, I've been looking forward to this conversation, honestly, for quite a while. I know we messaged back and forth a couple times over the past few weeks, and I really have. I've had this thumbnail of this video designed for probably close to a year,
Wow.
and it just through other things happening, and I couldn't put it together. So I'm glad we finally were able to connect on this.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure.
So I know everybody at home who's watching this channel probably knows who you are, but for anyone who may be watching this later down the road who doesn't for whatever reason, I know you run obviously the website Bond Suits. So tell everybody a little about what you do.
So yeah, I've had a website called Bond Suits now for over 15 years, where I dissect all of the clothes that James Bond wears and clothes that others wear, particularly Bond villains. 'Cause, I covered a lot of my favorite Bond villain styles on the website too, in addition to just figuring out everything I could possibly say about James Bond's own style.
Also, author of From Tailors With Love.
Oh yes, thank you. Yes, the book I wrote with Peter Brooker.
Yes, wonderful book. That actually is available not only on hardback, but you can get it at Amazon, US and UK. All those links I'm going to leave down in the description so you can get links to his book if you'd like and check out his website because, like you said, he does cover everybody you could think of. I was actually just looking up one to see before we started this conversation. One of my favorite outfits was from Rupture with Love, and it was what's his name? He's the Spectre agent that picks up Kleb from the helicopter. It's Morenzi. Yeah, Morzini. There we
Morzini.
go.
Yeah, so I can't remember if someone actually might have asked me about that code. Maybe that was why I wrote about it. But it's a really cool outfit.
Yeah, and I didn't realize it at the time. And I think something that I just missed was the fact that he's using the belt that for his jacket as the belt for his gun holster, which I
Yeah.
think is hilarious. So you are kind of the subject matter expert here when it comes to style and everything. So I wanted to kind of dive in here and let's kick it off with the first question. What makes a villain look like a villain from the sartorial aspect?
So with the villains, I find that you can break most of the villain outfits down by three categories. The first category that I think about with Bond villains is an outfit that represents the East. Bond is the hero from the West. You know, the British Empire is the West, and the villains are often the opposite of that. They're from the East. When you look at Doctor No, for instance, the first villain on screen, he's Chinese, and he wears a Nehru suit. This is just the complete opposite of Bond. That's just something that they use to represent how just someone could be very different from Bond or different thoughts. And so that's one of the things that I find is that's a recurring part of Bond villains and villains in other series too. I think all of these things about Bond villains they either took from other films and comics that came before, and others copied Bond in this way too.
It's true.
So I think that's like the first category. Then there's someone who dresses very flashy. That's another trademark of villains.
Yeah.
Bond is rarely flashy. Sometimes he is, especially in the 70s, but but even with Bond as flashy, the villain has to be even flashier. When you look at someone like Dr. Kananga and Mr. Big, whereas Roger Moore is dressing slightly more fashion forward than Bond had in the past. But then the villain brings it up another notch. I mean, the first villain to do this to represent the flashiness aspect was Goldfinger. His clothes are all gold to represent they're all shades of gold or brown, the blonde hair,
Yeah.
that warm pale skin tone, and it looks great when he's wearing very warm toned clothes. And but overall he's very flashy, like that silk dinner jacket he wears in the laser table scene. Like that is a classic Bond
Yeah.
villain outfit because it's just shows how flashy he is compared to how Bond would wear a black tie. I think when someone is flashy, it just shows that they want to show off. They don't have taste. They don't have any refinement. They don't know when to stop.
Mm.
And that's something that comes up with a lot of Bond villains. They don't know when to stop, and that's something that the villains don't know.
See, I think a lot of it, I think people today might hear the word peacocking, or maybe that's what it's referred to as today,
Oh
is
yeah,
where you're
definitely.
peacocking. And it is a sign of an insecurity, clearly,
Oh yeah.
especially if done on a regular basis. Obviously, and you probably agree with me on this, if it's for an event, a certain fun night out, that may be a one off. That's one thing. If everyone is dressing flashy. But if it's just your whole wardrobe looks like Versace threw up all over
Yeah, yeah.
it.
Yeah, like Silva is another villain that I really think of with the flashiness of all
Yeah,
the Craig villains. You see Silva in that outfit that he wears with that cream color jacket and that really
yeah.
bold shirt. That's something that just automatically shows that he's a villain because of how he's dressed. Now, there's also the opposite of that. There are the villains who dress, that third category of villains who dress fairly similarly to Bond. And I think they're not really showing how they're not really showing that they're a villain through their style, but what they are showing is that they are an equal to Bond. They're showing that they're
Ooh,
someone that's a good match for Bond. So
I
I
like
think
that.
when I look at well, so another thing is some of the villains will combine these elements. So you look at Kamal Khan. He's someone who dresses like Bond at times. In that first scene where we see him at the auction, he's wearing a navy suit, an off-white shirt, navy tie, very Bond-like outfit.
Yeah.
Then when you see him next, he's in one of his silk Nehru jackets at the casino. And so it's showing two different aspects of this character. One aspect is that he is very much, he has the elegance of Bond. He is a match for Bond. And then in the next scene we see him, he's dressed for just to show that he's got some differences to Bond too.
Yeah, he's the opposite here.
Yeah. So he can do, but he's both. And it shows that he's a very multifaceted villain and someone who is certainly someone who can take on Bond. I also think of it as his safari shirt, which is very much like Bond's.
Yeah.
And a lot of these villains throughout the series were they use some of the same clothiers that dress James Bond. Like when you look at say Kananga, he wore the suits from the same tailor that Roger Moore used. They both had suits from Cyril Castle.
Okay.
A lot of these villains have the same shirt maker as Bond. A lot of them are wearing Frank Foster shirts. Kamal Khan and
Mm.
Roger Moore are both wearing Frank Foster shirts, as am I right now. And and then you have Goldfinger's also wearing for Frank Foster shirts, like Sean Connery was in Goldfinger. You have some of the villains are wearing Turnbull and Astor shirts at the same time that James Bond is wearing them. So you have there's a lot of that. I mean, a lot of that is just from a practicality
I was gonna
in
say,
costuming,
yeah,
but they are wearing similar clothes they are very definitely wearing similar clothes to Bond on purpose on many of these occasions.
right, right, and that makes a lot of sense. I like how you broke this into three different topics because I feel like that's important to distinguish that there are multiple elements to consider when trying to look at what makes up a villain's look. It's not just a blanketed, one trick pony.
Oh
So
yeah. And there's also that aspect of a lot of villains will wear a lot of black. And that's something, yeah, that's a very villainous color to wear a lot of black. When you look at Lashif, he's certainly has a lot of black going on.
yes,
Drax is one of the earlier villains. I mean, I guess Scaramanga wears a lot of black too. He's got the white as well,
yeah,
and the white is sort of that flashiness aspect with the white suit.
true.
When he wears a black suit, that looks villainous. But
Hmm.
James Bond will wear plenty of black on occasion. not usually a black suit unless he's at a funeral, but
Right.
he's I that black is another aspect, but I don't think the black is as important. I To me the black, like when Lashif is wearing all black, he's wearing like
Hmm.
black dinner jacket, black shirt. That to me is more that falls into the flashiness category.
Right, because of the way they did that.
Yeah,
Because
and
I mean, it had like the velvet lapels and everything. There was still that punch to it. Even it wasn't just a flat monochrome black suit.
no, it's not about the black. It's
No,
about, although the black is certainly very important because the black is one of the ways that he's differentiated from Bond. They're both wearing, dinner jackets from Brioni.
right,
They still have that in common, but which is another just a costuming aspect rather than a
right.
real in
Real world
universe.
scenario.
I don't think Bond is supposed to be wearing Brioni because he's got a Brioni label. You can see Brioni mentioned in Casino Royale. You don't see that with Lashif, but he's there because he is wearing clothes that are similar to Bond on some level, but that black, like the dark shirts that he wears, whether it's the black shirt in the casino, dark shirts he wears in other scenes, that's kind of, it's giving a flashiness.
It gives
Uh,
main character energy because he doesn't blend in with everybody else wearing suits or tuxedos. He stands out through the use of patterns, through the use of the dark on dark on dark.
yeah, that darkness is that's a very common villain trope.
Yeah,
But you can certainly have heroes that wear dark. Batman is known for being in black, so
right.
you do have Bond. When you think of, like, I think of Bond in all black as going back to Live and Let Die, and with the turtleneck, that all black outfit that Bond wears. So it doesn't have to represent a villain.
That is what kind of kicked this whole thing off for me. Is when I was thinking about this, I said, "What is it that makes a villain look like a villain?" And the very first thing that popped in my head was, "Well, oh, they're going to wear all black. They're going to wear, all dark colors." And then I started thinking into like, outside of the franchise itself. And I was like, well, we'll go to G.I. Joe, for example. Snake Eyes, all black, hero. They're back, you said Batman, very dark, all black, hero. So it's not just a color palette. And I wanted to be clear on that. And I'm so glad you were able to break that down. Those three topics really kind of give a good explanation of what that entails.
Yeah, I mean, black can certainly be a villainous trope,
Oh, yeah.
but it has to be used carefully and not overused. Otherwise, it looks comical.
And it loses its impact.
Yeah.
So, question number two, Mr. Spaiser. In the Bond franchise, who has your favorite villain look and why?
So my favorite villain look is Kamal Khan because of what I said before, how when he's dressed in his Western attire, he's dressing similarly to Bond in a very tasteful way. He shows that he might even have more taste than Bond. He is just one of the most tastefully dressed Bond villains. He and Largo, to me, are the most tastefully dressed villains, but
Mm,
I think Kamal Khan does it even better than Largo.
I see it.
I love his dinner jacket. Like in the so when we see him in the dinner scene at the palace, with he and Bond are dressed very similarly. They're both wearing black dinner suits.
Oh, yeah.
Kamal Khan's shirt is I believe it's a white cotton, and Roger Moore's shirt is a off-white silk. Kamal Khan has the peak lapels, and Bond has the notch lapels, and they're very similarly dressed.
Right.
My own black tie clothes are more like what Kamal Khan wears in that
Mm.
scene than what Bond wears. But so
And
they're
they're going
yeah,
tit for tat with each other.
they are, and it shows. I shows that they are pretty much equals there. But I also mentioned Largo. I love how his white dinner jacket contrasts with Bond's midnight blue dinner jacket in that
Yeah.
casino scene, to show that Bond you would expect Bond to wear a white dinner jacket in the Bahamas.
Right.
He just wore one in Goldfinger, the film before, and he needs
Right.
something different. And this shows how just the villain is a little flashier than Bond in his double-breasted white jacket, and Bond's still pretty flashy in a mohair midnight blue jacket. But it's just, I love how that shows that contrast. But when you go back to Kamal Khan, you see that same contrast in their casino scene where Bond is in the white jacket and Kamal Khan is in a dark, I can't remember if it's black.
I can't
His
remember.
silk
Yeah,
narrow jacket. It's a very dark jacket he
right.
has in that casino scene, and it's showing. So there, it's using the dark color to show the villain,
Mhm.
whereas Bond is in white to show that he's the good guy. It can work either way. I think what's important there is the contrast.
Right. It's you're never gonna see two white dinner jackets, villain and hero lined up. They haven't
No,
done that yet. And that kind of plays into the old cartoon spy versus spy. It's the white versus black. They're never going to come to having them both look too similar kind of dilutes the dynamic between the two of them.
yeah, they're not, they can't, they have, but there are scenes where I mentioned before with Kamal Khan and Bond both wearing black. Because the black doesn't make the statement that the white does. So you can both
Right,
put them in that, but only one of them can wear that statement white jacket.
right.
So I do like Kamal Khan also for his Eastern style to bring that aspect of classic Bond villain style. That just that classic aspect going back to Doctor No, in which Blofeld then revives and you only live twice with his Mao suits. But Kamal Khan, I think, has it all, and he has that taste through every outfit he wears. I find that his narrow jackets are more interesting than any of the other Bond villains' narrow jackets.
Yeah.
They just have a little that extra touch to them.
Well, it's that Eastern heritage.
Yeah, and
That they're always adorned with patterns and stitching and sometimes jewels,
yeah.
and that makes a huge impact.
And then I think also why Kamal Khan's Indian or Afghan clothes, whatever they're supposed to be, are so great is because the costume designer Emma Porteous was born in India. She knew something of that. She had a very close relationship to those Indian styles. And I mean that was something you see all through Octopussy too, but she was the perfect costume designer for that. She understood that. She understood and she also understood the classic British style and how to dress James Bond in classic British style, except she didn't like neckties. She left the neckties to someone else to figure out.
She's like, nah, somebody else take care of that, please.
Yeah, but she did a fantastic job, I think,
Yeah.
with Octopussy was her first of three Bond films, and I think it really shows what a great costume designer was, especially in how she dressed the villain.
Well, and I mean, look at the set pieces and the
Everything.
location and the massive cast of that film. Octopussy was, it still is today, one of my favorite Roger Moores. I know
Yeah.
people look at me like I'm crazy when I say that, but I really do actually prefer Roger's three final films to his first three films. Uh,
Yeah.
it's just I feel like there's just more interesting elements that separate him more from Connery.
Yeah,
He's
I'm
he's
sort of in that category too. I'm a big fan of Roger's last three films,
Yeah,
and
fantastic.
yeah, I mean I like all of Roger's films, but his last three do stand out to me.
Well, and it's funny for years, and I've said this before, but I'll share this tidbit with you. For years, I did not watch Roger's films at all.
What?
I had issues with the '70s style, and when I saw him in bell bottoms doing the gun barrel, it really turned me off. And I was like, "That's just silly. He's too campy. I can't even take him serious as James Bond." So I didn't watch the movies at all for years. And I just about 4 years ago, 3 years ago, sat down with a friend and we watched Avtac, and that was my first Roger Moore film all the way through. And I was like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, the
And
bell bottoms are still in the gun barrel, but not in the film because they still
I
have that.
know,
They couldn't refilm it. They filmed it in for The Spy Loved Me, and they're like, we're gonna
I
keep
know,
it.
I
They
know.
should have replaced it, but
They should have. It did, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to let something like that ruin. my experience, and I did for a long time, and I paid the price for it because I missed out on years of enjoying these films. So it's kind of nice for me in a sense, though, because I've got all this history with Connery and Brosnan and Dalton and now Craig, and now I'm going back and I find myself putting on a Roger Moore film more often than not because it's one of the films that I know the least about. It's some of the
Okay.
so
Yeah.
it's kind of almost like a revitalization for me to enjoy these films all over again. All right, so number three, what does dressing like a villain say? And this is a psychological question. What does it say about you to others when you dress like a Bond villain?
So going back to those three categories again, if you're dressing like you're from the East, and it says that you, I mean, as a Bond villain, if you're dressing like you're from the East, it says you have different values than Bond from the West, and what others around you might have if you are somewhere that you're not. It says something personal about you, who you are. Um, Now, and not that dressing like you're from the East means you're a villain, but but
To
but that
everybody watching.
but that is something that I think the costume designers are using to say
Yeah,
about these villains. They're saying that they have different values than Bond has.
right.
I mean, if you're dressing like Mao Zedong, you might have his values.
I get it. And this has been kind of a general thing, theme, if you will, throughout a lot of films over the years, whether it's the Middle East, Russia, Germany. Germany's
Yeah,
got a track record. So,
yeah. But
you
there are a lot of Bond villains who, with the East, it's not just China and India.
no,
It also is Russia too. And you have a number of Bond villains who dress like they're dressing to show that they are Russian.
right.
Like in From Russia with Love, with Kleb, she's clearly dressing like a Russian to show that she is that has those villainous Russian values.
I was sitting here saying to myself, we don't have a lot of American villains. And then I immediately was like, well, Zorin, clearly.
Yeah, Zoran. And so Zoran is someone who dresses, I think of him as he's dressing much like Bond at times, but certainly
Mm-hmm.
flashier with the power suits.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Bond is also wearing red ties. Zoran's wearing a red ties a lot. Bond wears a
Yeah.
red tie in M's office in that scene. But Zoran is really upping the red aspect of that.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the power tie. He has the power suit with the big shoulders. Bond suits do not have big shoulders in the 80s. I mean, Roger Moore's in the 80s. Roger Moore's three films in the 80s, he's wearing these very soft suits, the opposite of a power suit.
Mm-hmm.
And Zoran has that power suit. And see,
Power.
he definitely has the more
More power.
power.
More power.
So he has that flashiness in there, but it's not overdone.
Yeah.
But he certainly has the flashiness of a big businessman.
Oh, yeah.
And what that flashiness says, whether he's saying it or any of the other villains who wear something flashy, it's saying that I'm better than you are. That's what it's saying to other people. It says that he thinks that he's better than you if he's
Right.
wearing something flashier than what you are wearing.
Right.
It's also saying that he doesn't have as much taste.
It
But
goes back
I
to
mean,
that flash.
Zoran does have a decent amount of taste. He's one of the more tasteful Bond
Yes.
villains, whereas we look at Goldfinger, he's not tasteful at all. Although the menswear author Alan Flusser told me that he's a big fan of how Goldfinger dresses.
That's funny.
Yeah, this
That's
this
funny.
guy, but he was the guy who dressed Gordon Gekko in Wall Street, and he's really into villain style, and I think
Yeah.
he's someone that I think himself he admires how villains dress.
It goes hand in hand with the fact that when you see a villain, they are fearless. You see them having so much more fun, whether it's in a story, a book, a movie, whatever it
Oh
is.
yeah.
They get to have more fun. So part of that fun is dressing flashier. Now, you have to think about it in your everyday life, and me too. I can't go to work dress like a stormtrooper, even though I may want to some days. That's not the point. But, the fact of the matter is that it's a certain type of energy that it gives off. Positive, negative, people will perceive you a certain way depending on what you choose to wear. And that's why I kind of wanted to dive into the psychological aspect, because obviously we have certain villains who are much more subdued. We have more comic book, almost clown like costumes throughout the series. Die Another Day, Gustav Graves' this suit at the end. I mean, these are that's
Yeah.
like megalomaniac sci-fi territory.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
but then he's also when he's wearing his regular suits, definitely not dressing like Bond dresses in a suit.
no,
He's dressing, but he's dressing a little more flashy than Bond is.
mm-hmm.
Not insanely so,
No,
but he's dressing in a much different way than Bond is when he's
yeah.
wearing a suit.
He turns it up just that one more notch, just to get that flair
Oh yeah,
that maybe Bond doesn't have.
yeah.
All right, question number 4. What are 3 really creative accessories that you can add, or I can add, to my wardrobe that pair well with a villain type look?
Probably say something that automatically thinks when I think of villain. I think if I see someone wearing a big gold watch, that's probably going to be sort of villainous. I'm not sure if any of the Bond villains are wearing big gold watches themselves, but it's just something that really goes with the villain look.
That $100,000 of just yellow gold on your wrist.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Get
If
it?
it's yeah, that's something that is just too flashy for anyone
Yeah,
other than a Bond villain.
I get it.
A small, tasteful gold watch on a leather strap, not villainous.
Different story. Yeah,
Very different. But if you have a big gold watch, something, maybe a solid gold Rolex Daytona with a
yeah,
gold bracelet, that's
yeah,
that's villainous.
yeah.
That's a villainous watch, especially the new Daytona, how it's bigger than the old one, and it's
Uh-huh.
to me if I see that watch, I'm thinking that's someone who might be a villain.
All right, so flashy watch. All right, what else are we thinking? Too much gold in general. What else are we?
Someone brings their cat with them everywhere, especially if it's a white cat. Probably a villainous accessory. If someone treats their pet like an accessory, it's sort of villainous.
Yeah,
But
fair.
the good thing so the white cat, the shade of white that a white cat is, goes with everything. Doesn't clash. Does not clash with anything. My cat, he's kind of got a few different colors going on. He might
Yeah,
clash with my clothes, but a white cat does not clash.
no. You will see if you're wearing black. Everyone will know that you have a white cat immediately.
Oh yes.
Whew. I've had a gray cat, and it was like you literally walked in the room with him, and it was like, "How? I'm covered."
Oh yeah, no, my cat has a lot of white on him, so it seems that all the fur that he sheds is white.
You're like, "Oh, thanks. That's exactly what I wanted. That's the look I was going for today." Bohemian chic cat. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't wear a ton of black or dark colors, but when I do like put on my dinner suit and I just it immediately is covered in cat fur.
All right. So number 3. What else?
There's the classic the eye patch.
Ah, yes, yes. It does
Classic.
go a long way.
Yeah. It's really a villainous look. I went to college with the guy that wore an eye patch. He was
Really?
missing an eye and he had an eye patch. I mean, he seems like a nice guy, but I was always a bit skeptical.
You're like,
No,
I
he
don't
was a
feel.
good guy,
Yeah.
but it's just it just you think villain when you see someone with an eye patch.
Oh, immediately. There's stigma all over that. Yeah, that's a great one. There's a guy here in my hometown. I won't name names, but long story short, he got into a bar altercation and took a beer bottle to the face and
Ooh.
lost his eye from it. He had 5 surgeries trying to save it, and now he wears an eye patch 100% of the time. And every time I see him out, I'm just like, oh, okay, it's just you. Like, wait, oh, okay, we're good.
Yeah,
Like, that catches you off guard a little bit.
it does. It does. I mean, that's why Austin Powers copied the Largo look with the eye patch.
Oh yeah, it was
It's
brilliant.
just I mean, it's kind of a joke now, but it is that classic villain accessory.
Moving on to question number 5. So, Matt, for Bond 26, what are you hoping to see when it comes to fashion choices? Not only for Bond, also the villains. And I mean, and I'm talking brands or fabric choices, cut of the suit, color palettes, all in here. What are you hoping that we see for Bond 26?
So for Bond, I really want to see them just go back to more of what Connery was wearing then, and
Yes.
more of that 60s classic English style for Bond, whether it include, especially with the tailoring. I think Bond needs to wear the English tailoring again, and he needs to wear it in a way that, like Connery wore it, and also also with more in the 80s. I've seen. I think of them as somewhat as just wearing English tailoring in a way that doesn't look too flashy, in a way that like their clothes, they had some flashy aspects to them in these eras, but they were in general were just they looked very comfortable. They were fairly light English tailoring, which is very modern right now. It's a thing that like a lot of English tailoring is known for being stiff. And Tom Ford copied that with his suits. When you see Daniel Craig's Tom Ford suits, those are pretty stiff suits, especially by modern standards. And I think the English are known for that. But now a lot of the English tailors, like you look at what Timothy Everest at Gray Flannel is doing. And his thing is, I mean, he's been now a staple of the English tailoring industry for about 30 years now, maybe even longer. And he's known for just making it. It's pretty classic, but brings that just a bit of a modernity to it. I mean, he dressed Ralph Fiennes in the Bond films,
Okay.
and I think that's a look, especially when you see that meeting. Is it the first meeting with Bond and Mallory in Skyfall when they're at the new
New
digs?
digs. Yeah,
I
with
think,
them there.
and you're seeing what Ralph Fiennes is wearing, a suit that's very similar to what Daniel Craig wore in the final scene of Casino Royale. There, that three-piece, I think it's a three-piece navy pinstripe there, and what you're seeing, what Ralph Fiennes is bringing this. He just has this English look to it compared to Bond's Brioni in Casino Royale,
Right.
and it looks more modern, but it's not too modern. And to me, this is just how I think Bond should be dressing. I mean, this Skyfall was now over a decade ago.
Yeah, no. Whew.
Being 14 years ago. But I look at this suit, and it still looks modern to me. It doesn't look too modern. It doesn't look dated. It just looks perfect, and that's how I want to see Bond wear tailoring.
Clean lines.
Very clean, and it's trim. It's not a skinny suit. It's not tight, but it's still very trim. It's soft. It looks comfortable. He looks very comfortable in it. This is how Bond should look in a suit. But Craig looks very uncomfortable in his very tight suit.
Right.
Whereas Ralph Fiennes is just he looks confident and comfortable, and this is how Bond should be in a suit.
Well, Matt, we've covered quite a bit here today, my friend. I've had a great time. I really have. And I appreciate you taking your time out of your schedule to sit down and talk about these things with me. And I know we're going to have more of these conversations.
Yes, I look forward to them.
Absolutely. Tell people where they can find you.
So you can find me, my website is bondsuits.com. You can find me on Instagram at bondsuits, on Facebook at bondsuits. So, and you can find my book, From Tailors With Love, An Evolution of Menswear Through the Bond Films.
Wonderful. Again, I'm going to have links for all that down below, so make sure you check those out. Matt, thank you again for being here. I've had a great time.
Thanks, Chris. You too.
No problem. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, Merry Christmas, 007.
With you.